Welcome to the Lion Show. I'm your host, your favorite business coach, Robert Lyon. I'm here today with Michael Sharon. He's an awesome video guy. He's got his own business, 6162 Productions. Makes all kinds of really high quality films. He's just kind of built it all the way up, and I'm excited for him to be here today. So, Michael, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about who you are and what you're up to?
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate being on the show. Yeah, Michael, I am born and raised in Denver. Started my business in 2013. Went to Colorado Film School in Lowry, locally here. Now I'm doing a lot of work with nonprofit organizations, doing digital ads, really anything around visual storytelling is the biggest thing that I'm focusing on.
Nice, man. And can you just give me just a real brief process of what that looks like, a whole video story? Because I always like to try and write stories for copywriting or try and film stories, and sometimes it's a little boring, but it's such an interesting topic because everybody's kind of like, the mass public are all children, and children love stories. So it always comes back down to delivering a story. So what are your thoughts about that when making a video?
Yeah, we all want to gather around the campfire and listen to a story, right? So
Yeah.
I think that's probably the best part about my work is not picking up a camera or doing stuff with the equipment. It's really understanding humans and what people are kind of gravitating towards. So I think that, when I'm working with a company or an organization, I really try to figure out what is the big story of what you guys are trying to tell. Is it kind of who your staff is, who you're serving, who your customers are, what your customers want? Just kind of understanding the cultural side of where the company's coming, what their voice is. So it's all kind of holistic in their branding. So we always try to figure out what is their established brand voice and how do we piggyback on that with the video content. So if they're kind of a fun, quirky company, let's make a quirky, fun video. If you're a nonprofit, let's make something that's more heartstrings oriented, right? So it comes from that starting place of just discovery for us, where you guys are coming from with your brand and your voice, and then trying to identify stories that maybe they didn't even think about telling in the first place. So if it's a company that sells like bikes or something like that, maybe they want to tell a story about their founder instead of the bike itself, and where did the founder come from, and why did they get into riding bikes, and why did they want to start this company. I think people are really interested in those stories these days on social. It's much more about who's behind the brand than what the actual product is. So that's always where we're trying to start from. And then once we kind of get a direction, try to make it as interesting and unique as possible. So if they're trying to tell their founder story, maybe we're not just sitting down as an interview, but they're like walking through the products and they're riding the products, or something that's different than just a talking head. So we're trying to figure out what's the visual language of this piece and how do we make it really pop. And then we get into the production side of it, and that can look so many different ways of how we're actually filming everything. But it's all really collaborative with the client the entire time, which is what we really love to do, is the team aspect of video production, where you're getting a lot of different ideas flowing between you and the client. And then we get into the editing process, where the story is getting shaped together. Maybe we're putting graphics on top of it, music, etc. So that's like the super general step-by-step of how we're going about our process. But it's all focusing around that story aspect. And I just think that, in this day and age, everyone is flooded with content constantly. So how are you going to stand out, and how are you going to feel genuine and authentic? And those are the big things that we're always trying to think of in every single part of the process.
Right. How do you stand out in the marketplace? I mean, you already do. There's something about your videos. They're just real clean. You got the music kind of all collaborating together. I mean, I just watched a few. I thought it was really cool. Do you see filmmaking as art still from you, or is it now like a system with a bunch of people doing different parts?
Well, it has to be both. I think it's I actually love cooking. So it's kind of similar, where art and science and process come together. So, you can always put some different seasonings in and do some kind of fun little twists on things, but the process is always going to stay similar. You're always going to cook a steak a certain amount of minutes on a certain amount of temperature. So we're trying to figure out the art form behind what's going to really make this thing stand out versus something that's tried and true with the formula. So I think it's a good mix where we understand, like, if you ever watch a Hollywood movie, every single one of them has a 3-act structure. They all have a very similar thing, but they're just putting little twists in. So that's kind of our philosophy, is like, how do we use this system that works in a way that's going to be like, oh, I didn't think of it in that particular way before. So hopefully that answers your question. Yeah.
Yeah. Have you done any film projects lately that you really liked, that you had a really good time doing, or does it come to mind?
Yeah, we did. So Safeco Insurance brought us on for a video project, and they have a really cool program where they're helping nonprofit organizations. So basically, they're interfacing with all their independent agents across the country, and a lot of those independent agents are really involved in their community. So they were like, how do we support them helping their community? And a lot of that is through nonprofit partnerships. So they're giving out grants to nonprofits through their independent agents, and so they wanted to do a video campaign telling other agents that this exists and they need to apply for the grant. So we were trying to think about, like, what is going on inside the head of one of these agents. They're very community minded. They want to make sure that each aspect of what they're doing in insurance is actually making a difference. So we came up with this concept that inside of an insurance office is like little windows into the community. So we actually filmed in like a cubicle office, but we used projectors to project different images on the walls of the office. And the images were kind of like of people giving back in the community. So it's just like the idea that when they're, behind their desk in something that looks kind of mundane, they're actually doing big things for, what's out there in a greater way. So it was a really cool visual piece to show that just in a way that people wouldn't have thought about before. And then we put a lot of really cool voiceover behind it about, that stewardship and the power of giving back, and just trying to make it really relate to that target. And it played really well. It was kind of like the anthem piece that really got people pumped up. Cause it's like, why are people waking up every day to go to the office, right? And they want to be reinvigorated to go to the office. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
What kind of stuff did you do when you were just kind of starting out? Like, how'd you kind of like build this business? Did you just do like real estate or like weddings? Or,
Yeah. Well, I guess we could rewind all the way back. Like, I was always a storyteller. I always liked writing random plays and like performing them for my parents, and like, however I can tell a story. So from like 13 years old, I started picking up a camera and like got into the actual art form of like the visual language around telling stories. I found that to be really cool because you're just putting a box around a story. You don't know what's going on behind the camera. It's just, you're showing one perspective. And I thought that was a really cool kind of way of telling stories. So I got into that, got into high school film club, was one of those AV nerds.
Yeah.
And then decided I wanted to go to film school. And so I was like always honing the craft of how do I tell stories through the lens. So out of school, how do you make that into a business? That's really tough. Some people are just, I'm going to go to Hollywood and go the studio system and climb my way up the ladder. I didn't really want to do that. Some people just couldn't figure out how to make it work money-wise. The way I figured it out was freelancing, honestly. So I was really drawn to editing. I love coming together with the story and figuring out pace and flow. So I was getting a lot of contract jobs as an editor. I started working with another smaller production company in Denver as an editor, and they were working with nonprofits. And I kind of was struck by how amazing the stories are in our community that I didn't even know existed. And we got to tell about the recycling center or about homeless people or about all these different walks of life. And so I was really interested in that lane of just figuring out how to make nonprofit videos better than the normal talking head, here's what our mission is, but really show it in a way that's engaging. So from that company, it was kind of like a springboard to some other types of referrals to nonprofits where I just got to do it myself and take on the creative reins. And it was kind of intimidating. So I was like, oh, I guess I'm directing this and I'm figuring out the story and I hope it like works for you guys. And it started to really gain traction. We started seeing like a lot of results around fundraising going up and people really relating to their stories. So the business was like really built on that nonprofit client base. And then stuff like Safeco was really a great springboard to kind of bridge the two sectors, I would say. So
Well, that's awesome, man. It sounds like you're kind of fighting the good fight. You know, you're making nonprofits have this real quality videos that kind of get their message. That, I mean, they need that. You know, you can't.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate
That's
that.
pretty cool. So, do you just do nonprofits then, or do you do other sorts of things too?
For a while, we were doing just nonprofits, but now we're doing a lot more different sectors. So we've done some stuff in the technology sector around like apps.
Yeah.
So you know, everyone has an app these days. So it's like,
Yeah.
how do you market the app in a way that's interesting? So we did some stuff for like a real estate closing group that I had no idea what that sector was, but we're like, let's make it fun. And so we made it fun. So we're definitely in all sectors more. But what we keep coming back to is the human-centered element.
Yeah.
So we're not getting hired to create product videos or you know, industrial videos. We're getting hired to, you know, really connect on the human level, and it can look and feel tons of different ways. It's just that's kind of the thread that goes through all the sectors.
Yeah. Well, it's pretty cool to actually talk to somebody who knows how to make a story come to life in a video, you know. I just think that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, it's definitely a specific skill set for sure.
Yeah. How many people do you have working with you now?
Yeah, so I've had a lot of kind of models around video production companies. Some I've seen have so many employees, and some are really lean. And I keep coming back to the idea of staying really lean and then just kind of scaling as I need to. So that's worked really well. So it's just me in the shop basically, and then I'm contracting out a bunch of really talented people on different things. And it's been really cool to be able to meet different artists, animators, cinematographers, etc., to be able to call on them for whatever project. And that way we can stay really nimble. We can have really small budgets for those who need it. And then for those who have more resources, we can just get really big. So for like the Safeco shoot, for example, we had 20 people on crew shooting this kind of thing. And then on other nonprofits, it's like 2 people, you know? So it's really nice to just be able to go up and down.
Well, that's an awesome way to do it. I mean, that just makes so much more sense than having everybody like a big overhead and everything else. Especially if you like the editing, right? Do you do most of the editing still, or do you outsource that now?
Both. It just kind of depends on our cycle, how much we have going on in the pipe. If I like, editing is a time-consuming thing, so I'm going to take on the stuff that I think is a little bit more needy for my specific skill set, and then on other projects I'll have an editor. So I think, and it's just nice because I love video equipment and toys like anyone else, but we have none in-house. We don't have the cameras or anything like that. We're just hiring out people who have them based on need. So it's been really nice to be able to give back to the professional community as well, because there's a lot of amazing filmmakers in Denver who just want to freelance and get contract work. So work with a really good variety of them. It's been great.
So you actually just rent the cameras too? You don't even own the cameras?
Right, yeah. Mm-hmm. Very low overhead. Yeah.
Yeah, you figured it out. That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, because that's a money pit, the equipment side. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm always looking at like, what are they, like the Red Dragon cameras or whatever?
Oh yeah,
$10,000.
Yeah,
fancy camera.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's freaking cool. What kind of videos, or what do you see this going in towards in the future? You want to just do bigger nonprofits, or do you have any like goals, or what are you thinking?
Yeah, I think that I'm pretty agnostic to the sector that we're working in. I think it's just like, I don't know if you're familiar with the term belief-based buying, but that's the big trend. And Edelman Agency put out like a big study about how belief-based buying is like skyrocketing, especially with millennials. So basically they're buying their values, right? So it's like they're going to spend more money on a brand that they can put their belief behind, that they know that, like Patagonia, for example, that they're really sustainable, et cetera. They'll spend more money for it. So I want to get into that kind of sector where like we can shed light on why are people buying and what is behind the brand, and making stories from behind the brand. I think that would be kind of the next evolution of digital advertising. Is you're not selling the product, you're selling the brand. So that's what I really want to get more into, is highlighting those types of stories in really creative, visually engaging ways. So you're going through your news feed and it's just popping out at you, and it's like, oh wow, I didn't know that XYZ company believed in that. You know, I mean, you could be shopping at whatever outlet forever and not know that they had a specific program. I mean, like Budweiser, for example, have like a whole campaign around how they do canned water, and they had been doing it for like 20 years to help a lot of people who needed clean water, and no one knew about the initiative until recently. They're like, I guess we should put a bunch of money behind marketing this because people care now. So it's like that type of campaign would be something I would love to grab onto.
Yeah, that definitely that seems like the theme for the future. Yeah, that kind of just blew my mind. So basically, you figure out who they are, and then you market to them a belief that they're going to have about a brand, something like that. Man, that's cool. I think that.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, especially like in the millennial age group like me, I mean, like I'm going to go to Whole Foods and get meat that's like I know wasn't in a terrible environment when they were going through the slaughterhouse, et cetera. Like I want to buy things that I know were humanely raised or whatever and stuff like that. So I think we're willing as consumers for the most part to pay more if we know that it's going towards something better, right? So I think that's what I want to grab onto with marketing for sure.
Yeah, that's cool. What like when you're thinking about making a marketing video, you're thinking like brand, thinking how to get like people's attention. Mm-hmm. What other thoughts kind of come to mind when you're making like these videos to get people to buy or to just kind of engage?
Yeah, well, I think that's the hardest thing is how do you make people engage? I mean, that's the magic that you have to really figure out. That's like top of mind for sure. I mean, I think when you watch the Super Bowl, when you watch all these Super Bowl commercials, I'm kind of enamored by like how much money they're actually spending on these campaigns. They're like $1 and it's like some of it's just like wacky for the sake of wacky. So I mean, like it's interesting to get in the head of like an ad firm who's like making these multi-million-dollar campaigns. It's like we just need to get people's attention. It doesn't even matter if it's on brand. We're just gonna like be wacky. So I'm like, that's thing in the back of my head of like I don't want to be wacky for wacky's sake. Like I would rather be just like on brand in a way that's like genuine, but also a little bit spun on something they didn't think about before. So I think like Geico, for example, fantastic, where they have the gecko thing, they have the caveman thing, they have their 5 YouTube ads, they have like a whole diversified version of how they're putting content out. And that's always what I'm thinking about is how do you keep it fresh? And everyone knows the Geico gecko, but they also know the Geico caveman. I mean, that's pretty impressive from an organization. So how do you stay fresh? That's a big thing. So you engage and then like you get them in your proverbial pipeline, right? And then you have to keep touching them down the pipeline with content. So like how do you stay fresh down until they convert? So I think that's something I'm always thinking about as well is, the story, the engagement, but also like how are we touching them that's going to bring value to them on each step of the rung down the funnel, so.
Yeah. Well, I've paid a lot of money running ads and things like that. This is like a little woo-woo, but whenever I feel like the product and the positioning in the video has like a certain magic about it almost. I can't think of a better word at the moment, but like has some like more power. Those always obviously do a lot better. So then once you have like an irresistible offer with a great pitch and a great video, and then you promote that, and you have like some branding and more thought that goes into the process, it always performs 10x better than people that are just trying to make like pithy, like weird videos where they're like trying to look like super rich or whatever it is. So I think there's just so many different levels of video marketing. And I think video marketing is probably the future for just about all advertising and everything else. So
it is. I think that's a whole thing and that's a discussion in itself. But I think that's when a pain point for us is like when we're doing business development, video is still kind of on the outer edge. It's kind of like in the early 2000s when people are like, it would be really nice to have a website, but I don't need a website, right? It's like we all want video, but they're not like we need video. We're going to make it a priority to put it in the budget. So I think that's been hard to just kind of navigate through of showing the intrinsic value of a video, because I think there's a lot of studies about, SEO is best with video and all these things are best with video, but people are still like, well, it's a heavy price tag or whatever. It's just like this big bad creature. They don't know what exists inside of video. And I think we're trying to like destigmatize, like it's not going to break your bank. You can do it in a way that's not going to be like incredibly time consuming. Like there's a lot of kind of stigma we have to educate people on at this point. And that's been part of the challenge is just like video marketing is sexy, but how do we get into it in such a way that we can just dive in, like especially on the startup side, like a startup who needs video, they're just like, I don't have $5,000-$10,000 laying around. How do I do this? So we're always happy to consult on that kind of stuff too, but that's a pain point for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that's cool, man. Where do you think like the video industry's going? Like, are you feeling pretty happy? Everything's like getting good, or is it getting saturated, or what do you think? I mean,
well, yeah, I mean, the pandemic's been interesting because it's a huge spin on like the Hollywood scene, right? Because you can't go to movie theaters anymore, and they're all trying to figure out, you know, are we going to do video on demand, et cetera. So that's just more influx into the internet of how much video content you're going to see. So yeah, it's super saturated. I think like people are burning through videos on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, like, you know, and everything is user generated now. So you can just like pick your phone up and make a movie. So it's like, as a marketer, how do you stand out on that noise? That is the thing about the industry, I think, has like legs for sure. It's just a matter of how we're going to adapt, because, you know, in the 90s, it's all TV buys. There's no internet really. So it's like you're going to spend tens of thousands of dollars on like a commercial that you're going to put on TV. Now you can spend like $200 like just running gunning a commercial campaign right on the internet. So I would say like the industry as a whole is in an interesting point of like, how do we have value as professionals in our craft? Like it is a craft. Right. So it's kind of like, again, with the food analogy, would you home cook versus go to a restaurant, right? So it's like there are a time and a place to cook at home, and there's a time and a place to have a professional chef make you a meal. So I think that we're in the same kind of thing. It's like you can make your own content all day long, but there is a time and a place where you need a professional to come in and be like, let's jazz this up, right. Not just in the way of how it looks, but in the content side. So that's our biggest thing, is our value is let's figure out content first, and then however we want to film it, whether it be on an iPhone or a cinema camera, we can figure that out. It always comes back to content. So I think like the long-winded answer of your question is like the video industry is in a good place. It's just a matter of how it's gonna go down these forks in the road. So
right.
Yeah.
How are you getting most of your clients now? Referrals, or like, because I bet the nonprofit video market's kind of a small group.
It is. Yeah. So that's the tough part, I think, for any business owner, is the business development, and that's kind of where we're at right now. Like in this part of the year, we're just hitting the pavement about like where are you going with your marketing efforts. We're going to talk to event planners who work with nonprofits, to talk to you know, other types of marketing folks. We're always trying to figure out collaborations, honestly. So, you know, a lot of the clients have come from referral. There have been some from just Google search. They're finding our website. But I think it's been really helpful to just have those professional relationships with people who are also working with the similar clients, because a social media person and a video person work great together. And I think that's what I would really want to build on this year, honestly, is those types of partnerships, because the agency model is dying too, right? So there's like bloated agencies that don't have a lot of legs to charge so much money. So it's all about pooling resources together as different professionals and coming to clients as like a one-stop shop with like a way smaller price tag. And I would love to be part of those types of resource, you know, types of like collaboration. So that's kind of where I'm at with trying to get business right now. But overall, it's been pretty referral oriented. Yeah.
I saw that you had something about, was it virtual summits on your website, or it was something? Have you done any of those? Because those sound pretty cool.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, with the pandemic, people can't go to events. So especially in a nonprofit gala type of environment where they're putting like a lot of their budget for the year in like getting these donations from these big galas. So we did quite a few last year where we were just live streaming their MC, their auctioneer, doing these types of what they call paddle raise videos that would appeal to their donor base that we would create. So it's kind of going to the event on your computer, but it's more polished. You know, some of them were doing it on Zoom. and everyone's kind of zoomed out right now. So we're like, let's make it look more like a TV show that they're tuning into. So we had professional streaming equipment, got out to YouTube, Facebook, et cetera, all their social channels, and had it feel more polished. And that was a big thing for sure this year.
That's awesome, man. You get into special effects or anything like that? You've been down that rabbit hole?
Oh, some, but I think it's special effects is just, again, a tool, right? I think it's just like it has a time and a place. So for what we're usually doing, we're not doing like a lot of special effects. We did one that was kind of fun where it was a practical thing where we wanted to do, I don't know if you've seen those Old Spice commercials where all the set pieces are moving all around, the black guy's like on a horse and he's in the pool. So we were like, that's a cool style. It's like they did it practically where they were like moving the set around. So we're like, let's try that. So we were like pulling the camera back, and then we had someone at a desk who was like on a dolly, and they got the desk pulled away from the shot as they were coming in. So it was kind of like a cool practical effect. So like if we need like a visual kind of like boost, we'll break it out. But it's not like we're not a special effects. I
know it's its own rabbit hole, but it's always fun.
It's a fun rabbit hole, though.
Yeah. Hell yeah, man. Well, yeah, man. I think your company's just badass, and I love that you're doing stuff for nonprofits. Like, I think that makes it even cooler. So I hope you the most success, kicking ass in the video production company. Where can everybody listening to probably get in contact with you best or reach out to you?
Yeah, so my email is Michael, Michael, at the number 6162productions.com. And you can just go to the website too, 6162productions.com, to look at our work, learn a little bit more about our approach. We have a lot of different sectors listed out there of who we've worked with, so you can kind of check out the different types of work. And so whether you need a video or you're a consultant and you want to just chat, talk shop, I would love to do that as well. So
nice, man.
The best way to contact me. Yeah.
Who are you consulting? Like people that want to make videos, who want to make like how to get it going or something like that, or just to talk about video stuff?
Oh, I'm just saying, like, yeah, if there's people in the marketing world who are consulting with their clients who just want to get some ideas about video,
right?
Chat about that too. Yeah.
That's freaking awesome, man.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think that's about it. Thanks everybody for tuning in, and listening. Talk to you later. Take care.
Thanks.